Hi guys, enemy Simon from Odyssey. I thought I'd bring you another video. People have been asking me questions on. I've been to and froing with people about the new amendment on the XRP ledger. I just want to go into a little bit about it, why I'm sort of on the fence, why it's good in some ways and I think bad in others, and yeah, so that's what this video is all about. So, I don't know if you know that you can do all this. I'll actually put the links to all these sites in the video below. So, because it's interesting to look at if you care, if you care to look at sort of like what's going on with the ledger, if you've got any interest in it whatsoever. It's purely academical, you don't need to understand it. But if you want to know, it's interesting. So, I don't know if you know how amendments work on the XRP ledger, but they are proposed, then they are voted on by the validators. Sort of like that's the consensus method. Once they receive a consensus, which is I think it's 80%, then they'll go into a 2-week period. If it's still yay at the end of that 2-week period, then the proposal will be passed and you'll have to upgrade. In this site here, which is the known amendment site for the XRP ledger, you've got sort of what's being voted on in the past, what's being voted on now, what's up for sort of debate. The one that I'm sort of talking about today is this non-fungible tokens version 1.2, I think it is, or 1.9. So, and it's this one here. At the moment, it's got 28 out of 35, and you can actually view this live, so you can actually see who's gone for yay and who's gone for nay. Now, these people might necessarily not be nays, but the way proposals work is it's automatically set to a no until you switch it to voting yes. So once you've voted yes on it, then you'll go into the yays column, and if you remain there for 2 weeks after, then fantastic. So I don't know if these guys are going to stay no. I don't know if they're just being extra cautious and they're just looking at it more, or they just haven't got round to the actual proposal yet, which very well may be the case. But there is a couple of concerns on this one, so I don't think it's necessarily as straightforward as possible. So at the moment, we've got a consensus of 62%, and if it gets to 80, then obviously it will be enabled after 2 weeks. So let's go into the actual thing a little bit now. So it's the non-fungible token support that we're talking about. So it's the issuance of NFTs on the XRP ledger. Now, it's great, and it's going to add an extra utility to the XRP ledger that currently isn't there. I mean, at the moment, there is no sort of code there for issuing NFTs native on the ledger. So it will add that utility to it, but it also comes at a cost, which is a cost of the infrastructure. Now, going into the infrastructure a little bit, the XRP ledger is basically a volunteer network. Now, it's not a volunteer network, obviously, for Ripple. So Ripple are very financially incentivized to make the XRP ledger work because they own an awful lot of XRP. Now, they're gonna push that, but they also need it for their business case as well. They've developed on-demand liquidity and line of credit and all the rest of it that uses the XRP token. So they need the ledger to work, they need it to be healthy, and they need it to be fast and scalable. So they're going to spend money on it, but they've built a business around it. But other people won't necessarily spin up infrastructure for it because infrastructure is expensive. Peering, WebSockets, the actual fundamentals that a network needs is all pretty costly. Now, there's a company called Alloy Networks, and they're here on Twitter, so you can follow them. They do an awful lot of stuff for the XRP ledger. It is a business for them, so they provide peering, and they've got a cluster of sort of validators and all the rest of it, and this is sort of his unique peers that he's got connected to his cluster of. So, but these guys add a lot of infrastructure, and they take a lot of the brunt of the network. And I don't want a feature to do what happened last time a feature was enabled, and that's this one here, which was, there was a spell not long ago, a few months back, where there was an awful lot of trust lines all issued at the same time, and those trust lines caused the network to just carnage, basically. The Ripple validators became out of sync. It affected everything. And the consensus method for the XRP ledger is it just stops. It stops sort of processing transactions because it hasn't got certainty. Without certainty, it doesn't go forward. And it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. And there's nothing we can do about it apart from scale up the infrastructure. But again, that comes at a cost, and it hasn't got the access that Ethereum has got. It hasn't got the access because it hasn't got the incentives. There is no incentive to spin up the infrastructure and provide network hardware like Bitcoin's got, like Ethereum's got. So because of the whole mining thing and the whole incentive thing, so the transaction fees get burnt on the XRP ledger. It's a deflationary token, and there is no monetary incentive for it. Now, this is the features that will be good with sort of introducing NFTs, because NFTs will bring traffic to the site. Hopefully it'll bring hardware to the network. It will bring all of these things because it's a use case that doesn't exist, and it's a use case that can generate revenue. Because unlike transactions that you want to be as cheap as possible, the NFTs, they have commissions, they have royalties. So if you can issue them on the ledger and it's very, very cheap and efficient to use, then it will be beneficial for the ledger. But also, at the same time, if these people that come and join the network don't actually add anything to the network from a hardware, so then everybody else is going to have to scale up on their behalf, so it's going to put the network under strain and under pressure. So, Ripple X, which is Ripple's arm that's dedicated solely to development for the XRP ledger, I think it's headed up by Nick B, who's been like their C++ developer for 10 years. They're relatively confident, to say yes to it because they think that they've fixed the bugs and they think that they've scaled everything up enough to handle the pressure, which is fine. But it's that unknown certainty, isn't it? It's like, what could happen? Networks are all about topology, so it's where everything's located, how synchronous it is, how much access to infrastructure it's got. And it's one of those things that you can predict it, but you can never guarantee it. So it's just a watch this space thing. So there is advantages and disadvantages to it. So the advantages obviously is it's going to bring efficient storage, and it's a great for sort of a use case for the actual ledger. So the disadvantages are obviously it requires an amendment, so which increases complexity and adds more types of data that must be tracked. And we need interfaces. That's the other issue. It's great building the actual features and the functionality into the ledger, but you still need people to build those interfaces so people can actually look at the data that's on the ledger. So it's the same as people building apps that show data that exists on smart contracts and dApps that show data that, and like OpenSea can show you the NFT that you've got from your collection in their wallet because they've built that interface. So we're going to need something very similar for the XRP ledger. So we're going to need people to actually actively build and deploy platforms on this. There is a couple doing NFTs on the ledger anyway. I think Expector's one of them, and people are looking at it. So people will do it because the NFT market's quite big, and the XRP market, the XRP community is relatively untapped, I think, with the NFT space, because they're not all sort of like XRP maxis, but the XRP community is very loyal to XRP. And I don't think they get involved that much in other projects outside. Some of them do. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying from what I can see, there's like a core. So it would be another use case for the XRP community as well, and giving them access to. I've asked questions to a few people on whether or not collections that exist on ERC20 at the moment will be able to be migrated, because it'd be interesting if you could migrate through Flare or through other people, or certainly other service providers to give you that functionality, which would be interesting. I haven't had responses yet, so there may be a quick, short follow-up, that possibly you will be able to migrate from Ethereum to Flare on your OpenSea collection, which can be represented somehow on the XRP ledger. So it gives another use case of people possibly migrating for cheaper use cases. The one thing I have found with the NFT community is they're quite loyal to their networks as well. You tend to get a lot of people in ETH trading in the high-end ETH coins, and they tend to be quite ETH maximalists. And so there isn't that much sort of crossover on the networks as far as NFTs go as it stands. I think when somebody actually starts to launch true multi-chain NFTs, I think that might start to dwindle and change a bit. But at the moment, I think it's quite fixed to the protocol that it's launched on. I'm not saying that can't change. It's just it's an observation that I'm noticing. So yeah, so this is why I've been a bit on the fence with it, just for that reason. It just adds extra pressure to the network, and if it goes ahead, then if it can be maintained and it brings people in and it brings another use case and it brings more infrastructure, fantastic. If people just abuse it because it's another thing that can be built on the ledger and they start issuing countless trust lines and countless sort of NFTs and minting massive collections that just sit there, and I don't know how healthy it will be in the long run, but time will tell. And there we go. I hope you're all enjoying the videos. If you are, please like, please subscribe, so please share with your friends. So hopefully this amendment will pass this time round and it will become active, and we'll be able to see how it develops, and we look forward to it.